Hey guys, today I'm going to be making a tutorial on four-look glass layer. So the first part of four-look glass layer is to orient the edges, and there are three cases that you can get. So the first case is when you have a line across like this. This is known as the bar. To solve this case, you do the algorithm F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime, and then you get the cross. The next case is called the hook, because it kind of creates a hook like that. So to solve this case, you do the algorithm wide F, R, U, R prime, U prime, wide F prime. And that gets the cross. The last case you can get is called a dot, and you have no edges oriented, and there's just a dot which is the yellow center in the middle. So the algorithm for this case is the algorithm of the two other cases combined. So you first do the algorithm for the first case, F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. Then you do the algorithm for the second case, wide F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. See, we have the cross. So now that you have your edges oriented, you need to orient your corners. And for this, there are 7 cases. So the first case, and the most easiest case, is called the sune. You may already know this from the beginner's method you learned. So the algorithm for sune is R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. And that orients the last layer. The next case is called anti-sune. It's the inverse of sune. So you hold it like this, and you do the algorithm R, U2, R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime. And that solves the case. This case is called H. And to solve this case, you do the algorithm F, R, U, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And that will orient the last layer. This next case is called pi. You recognize it by having headlights here and no headlights here. They're facing to the sides. So when you get this case, you hold it like this with the headlights pointing to the left. And you do the algorithm R, U2, R2, U prime, R2, U prime, R2, U2, R, and that will orient the last layer. This is the next case. You recognize it by having 2 corners on top, and the other 2 corners don't make headlights. They're pointing in opposite directions. And to solve the case, you do the algorithm YR, U, R prime, U prime, YR prime, F, R, F prime. And that will orient the last layer for that case. The second last case for this step is this. You recognize it by having 2 corners on top diagonal to one another. So to solve this case, you do the algorithm F prime, R prime, F, wide R, U, R, U prime, wide R prime. And that will orient the last layer. This is the last case of the step. It's called T. You recognize it by having 2 yellow corners on top, and the other 2 corners make headlights. So you put the headlights on the front, and you do the algorithm R2D, R prime, U2, R, D prime, R prime, U2, R prime. And that will solve the case. Now that you've oriented your edges and your corners, you need to permute your edges and your corners. So you start off by permuting your corners. So for this, there are 2 cases, and for an example would be this. you do an algorithm, and then you'd solve the corners like this. The first case is called an adjacent case. What that means is the swap of corners that you need to do is adjacent or next to each other. You recognize this case by having one set of headlights. So what you do is you put those headlights on the left, and you do the algorithm R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R2, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime. And that will solve the corners. After you've done all that, and if you look around the cube and you have no headlights, which means you have the second case. So, the algorithm for this case is F, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime, R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R, F prime. And that will solve the corners. Now that you've solved the corners of the last letter, you want to solve the edges. So if you have one side solved, check here, and if these are opposite, you have the first case. The algorithm for this case is M2, U prime, M prime, U2, M, U prime, M2. And that will solve the case. If the colors here aren't opposite, which means you have the second case, which when you have last side solved. So the algorithm for this case is M2, U, M prime, U2, M, U prime, and M2. And that will solve the cube for that case. Now, if you look around the cube and you don't have a side solved, but there's just opposite colors everywhere, that means you have this case. So you do the algorithm known as the H-perm. The algorithm goes like this. M2, U, M2, U2, M2, U, M2. And that will solve that case. Now this is the final case. You look around the cube, you don't have a side solved, you don't have opposite colors either. These two edges need to be swapped, and these two edges need to be swapped. So when you have this case, put two edges that need to be swapped on the front and the right, and you do the algorithm M2, the algorithm right there, M2, U, M2, U, M prime, U2, M2, U2, M, and then a U2, A, U, F to finish it off. And that will solve the cube. Thank you for watching. That was my tutorial on four-look glass layer. So that was my tutorial on four-look glass layer. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. And don't forget to subscribe and like.